Good morning. So, I want to bring you on a journey because I'm creating safety for myself, and a lot of times, what I have called failures are actually just work in progress. um, as I've come to discover with more patience, learning more patience, or just having had time to see things through, to see the outcome of the intention that was really, really deep. And I've invested a lot in coaches and support structures that have helped me come out of my trauma patterns after I've been very severely triggered. Um, and so, for anyone that's met me at different points in my life, you will have known me depending on how I was experiencing my trauma at the time, um, or the setting, whether it was there was a lot of protocol and a lot of rules I could follow, and it was really easy to know how to make it through, or I had a mandate that was not the objective of everybody else, and so I was kind of like the bull in the china shop, and that was in fact my job. Um, so it's just interesting to me to see how things have always been anchored in a kind of a central me, um, throughout all these journeys and these failures or these learning cycles. I prefer to relate to them as experience bubbles, because with complex PTSD, my body doesn't always know I'm not where I was, and it takes a long time to catch up systematically. Like, the actual functions are dragging, like I'm in a high stress situation when I'm not, um, and I can't actually see the forest for the trees, as they say. um, okay, so I was reviewing, I wanted to execute and follow through on some things that I have created, and I'm looking at a plan from 2022, which I didn't realize my plan was so organized so early on in my journey, that I had such a clear vision so early on. I just didn't have the language to articulate it until I went through the courses. And so I had always been doing this work intuitively, and then I would go into a structured learning environment and I'd be able to articulate it now in a different way, and take these experiences or activities or tasks that I had done, these skills I'd used in one area, and then move them into another area automatically without even really thinking about it, almost like my brain was just archiving what I'd done before in a series of patterns. And until I started seeing myself as someone who, um, until I started seeing my ability to see the various layers of things, and various perspectives from different objectives and different prioritization matrices, I was able to see myself more fully and embody that leadership energy instead of that imposter energy that a lot of us get stuck in when we've had a lot of stories told about who we are and what we're capable of. Okay. And depending on the intensity of the stories and the environments in which we heard the stories, would trigger how we actually relate to them and how safe we feel in following through, or the risk of failing or failure, right? So I have this plan, and by the way, I worked with a brilliant focus assistant to do these things, while she was a coach of mine. She was my writing coach. She became much more than that in her ability to and her skill set. So she really very much became a focus assistant for me, which is not assisting me figuring out how to focus. It's more helping me see where my focus is how I relate to that in the way the material that I was generating out of my reality and my artistic endeavors. Okay, so 2022, it's now 2026. Today is Saturday, July 11th. So this I have a planning from January onward. So 2022 was now a subsequent year of working with this individual. I'd started working with her in 2021. So year of work, maybe even I think in the fall. So a quarter of workshops, let's say. No, year 2. This was year 2 of working with her. Really a lot of the work was in articulating my artistic voice, my corporate voice, as well as my my personal voice, because I had a lot going on that I didn't realize was a lot in terms of neural rewiring and patterning changes in terms of life, career, personal circumstances, personal belief circumstances, all of that. So this was like a social media calendar planned out for a year, but it was really part of my personal work, my articulation of my brand, my articulation of my various voices and perspectives as well. And what was the purpose of this video? It was just to reflect and create safety for what we often call failures, when we're not able to see something through at the moment because of circumstances, perspective, skill, resources, whatever those resources may be. Energy is one of those resources. But it's all clear, and what I've gotten to now. So in January, I was going to begin creating videos. I was going to rethink social media posting, and that really took me down a doozy, because I not only was rethinking it, I was reliving it. I was hearing all of the parlay of the industry telling us this is what you need to do to grow a brand, to do this, to do that. And while it held true at that time, everything kept changing. So anything you could have sold in 6 months was often useless if it was fully focused on the technical. So yeah, I was in a program that championed abundance, and that was a very consistent routine and a manifestation practice, which I was very naive to what manifestation was. It sounded like magic to me always from the beginning, but with this particular practitioner with a medical background, it was very much about embodiment and living that magic. And that was very interesting, because I'd heard about manifestation from a healing practitioner, and I just didn't get it. I didn't connect with it that way. But I definitely comprehend it now from that perspective. And so it wasn't as focused on creating, it was more on understanding, I think. So, anyways, I feel like 4 years later, 5 years later now, because it was planned the year before, I'm not necessarily like on target for articulating all of these things in the public realm, but I'm definitely living them in the ether, which is a lot more powerful than, to me, than a bunch of people having heard my material from my understanding of energy at this time. So I guess I'm kind of reporting that, like, what I had considered a failure, I was misrepresenting, misunderstanding, miscomprehending, because I didn't have this perspective and understanding, and I didn't have this much other data and context. So I wanted to create that safety that while on paper things are failed, there are other things that I value much more, that are higher priorities, much more intangible impact, and like not intangible impact, but like monetarily intangible impact, it seems. But at the end of the day, becoming the person that one intended to be in the projected realm, and having lived these things more truly, and like stepping up to follow through, that in itself is the gain, that is the revenue out of this. Like that's something you can't walk into a classroom and pay money or gold or silver to receive. One has to live it. And so when we're doing it, whether it seems that we want to apply the judgment of failure or success, or desired outcome or undesired outcome, intended outcome, unintended outcome, it does feel like there's a lot more room to have a better dialogue around the things that are not working in our current reality. I think that was the entire point.